In Islamabad, Imran Khan, the glamorous Playboy cricket captain turned Pakistani Prime Minister, not the Imran Khan, the Tory backbencher, who was convicted of sexual assault earlier today on a minor. But the Imran Khan, the glamorous Imran Khan, has been ousted from office after losing a no-confidence vote. It had been a long week of parliamentary manoeuvring, with the PM blocking the vote to dissolve Parliament before the courts eventually sided with the opposition parties. Sounding a bit like Colonel Gaddafi in his final days, the great cricketer blamed international conspiracies for his removal from power, i.e. the US disliked his coziness with China and Russia.
Just across your border in Western China, the Chinese government has imprisoned more than 1 million Uyghur Muslims in re-education camps. The Chinese government has tortured Muslims, forcibly sterilized them, and they've destroyed mosques in Xinjiang and also punished Muslims for fasting, praying, even giving Muslim names to their children. Prime Minister, why are you so outspoken about Islamophobia in Europe and the United States, but totally silent about the genocide of Muslims in Western China?
What our conversations have been with the Chinese, this is not the case, according to them.
The evidence is just overwhelming.
Whatever issues we have with the Chinese, we speak to them behind closed doors. China has been one of the greatest friends to us in our most difficult times. When we were really struggling, our economy was struggling, China came to our rescue. So we respect the way they are, and whatever issues we have, we speak behind closed doors.
We speak to them behind closed doors, so who cares how many Muslims they torture? It's almost as if Chairman Xi is standing behind the camera with a gun pointed at his head, but not so. Mr. Khan went on to explain that the Chinese Communist Party is apparently, quote, following the teachings of the Prophet. Did you know Chairman Xi gets it all from Muhammad rather than Mao Zedong? At any rate, Imran is out and Shahbaz Sharif of the notoriously corrupt Sharif family is in. The Sharifs are like the Bidens of Lahore, and Shahbaz is said to be wealthier than his brother Nawaz, which I would not have thought possible. I'm joined by former Brexit Party MEP Ben Habib. This is the first time any Pakistani Prime Minister has been turfed by a vote of no confidence. What do you make of it, Ben?
Well, I think it's the right decision. I thought your opening clips were brilliant. They absolutely summarised the difficult position in which Pakistan finds itself. You have a Prime Minister in Imran Khan, who recognises he needs aid, he needs trade, he needs support. He's not getting it from the West, so he will go to China. He will trade with Russia if he has to in order to get what he needs to get. And yet he's got this difficulty reconciling that as a democratic leader of Pakistan with the basic grassroots needs to appeal to the Muslim vote. And he found himself in real difficulty answering that question over the Uyghurs. And that is inherently the problem that Pakistan faces. It has to ally with China because the West has effectively turned its back on Pakistan, and yet China is an abuser of Muslims, and Khan has to appeal to the Muslim vote in order to stay in power. It's a complete muddle.
Does the West go wrong with all this talk of values? I mean, China basically treats everyone as a sort of cold-hearted mercantile republic. They don't really care what your attitude to transgender bathrooms is, as long as you serve their bottom line in cruder ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the greatest mistakes the West has made over the last, 40 years, so most of my life, is that it exercises its international trade policy backed up with its ideology. And if they don't meet, the trade policy doesn't operate. So, we've gone abroad and we've tried to export democracy through trade. And if that hasn't worked, we've done it down the barrel of a gun. We tried that in Afghanistan, we've tried it in Iraq, we've tried it in Syria, Libya, Egypt. We didn't like the results in Egypt. There have been problems as a result of this ideological drive behind our foreign policy. that has left us actually ever more isolated from the Near and Middle East and parts of Southeast Asia. Whereas China, as you rightly say, Mark, does not export its ideology with its trade. China is a mercantilist country with a very strong internal ideology, but not one that it exports. So in Pakistan, for example, it's made a commitment of $70 billion worth of investment. That compares to about $500 million per annum commitment by the US and the UK. And I know that the US and the UK complain bitterly that after giving all this money to Pakistan, Pakistan doesn't pivot towards the West. But when it's faced with this massive influx, billions and billions of dollars from China, it's not going to pivot west. And it's certainly not going to do it for aid. What we need to do in the West is actually learn the lessons which our forefathers well knew. Our forefathers who went to the subcontinent back in the 19th century and recognized that the way to influence and exercise British interests in the subcontinent was through trade and not the exportation of ideology. The Chinese get it. We need to relearn that lesson. We need to relearn it fast.
That's a fascinating point, Ben. You can say what you like about the East India Company, but they were just about the company's bottom line. They didn't have any views on. They didn't fly the rainbow flag like the U.S. Embassy in Kabul did a couple of weeks before the Taliban took over. That's a terrific view of the situation. We'll see what Imran does next. He has many fans in the UK. Thank you very much, Ben.